Well, it's that time. Big announcements all around. John Spencer let go in Portland, DC United with a new ownership group, and of course, silly season heats up next on The Daily. Welcome to The Daily. It's Tuesday, July 10th with Greg Lalas. I'm Jason Saghini. Yesterday, big news out of Portland. John Spencer let go as the Timbers head coach after about a year and a half. And Greg, some people might have seen this coming. Poor road record. Things got out of hand against RSL in that last game. What are your thoughts?
Well, I think that the poor road record certainly had an effect in here. Gavin Wilkinson, who will take over as interim coach, actually mentioned that in some of his comments in the press conference yesterday, that he could not really understand why they couldn't get up for games on the road the way they do at home. So that's certainly part of it. I also think that a lot of it is they just weren't seeing the improvement that they wanted to see. This club, before the season, said we are going to make the playoffs. That was their measure for success in 2012. They're not that far out of it, but it did not look like they were improving and growing and continuing to become that team that would challenge for the playoffs this year.
Yeah. Portland Timbers have a very outspoken owner in Merritt Paulson. He gave the press conference yesterday and announced the news. It looked at some point in there like he was getting pretty emotional about it.
Well, I think that we've heard over the last year and a half a lot of the emotion come out of Merritt Paulson. We've had him on the podcast, we've seen him on Twitter. Whether it's defending the Timbers, whether it is pushing for things for the Timbers, and very, very emotional about John Spencer. His admiration for Spencer was very easily seen. He had his heart on his sleeve, if you will, about Spencer. So yeah, it was emotional. It looked like he was actually about to cry at one point. So this was a tough day, I think, for Merritt Paulson.
All right, we talked a lot about this on Extra Time Radio yesterday. You can get it on iTunes or Buzzsprout. The rumors continue to swirl around Geoff Cameron potentially headed to the EPL, and now we hear that the owners of the Houston Dynamo will not stand in the way of a Cameron move to Stoke City.
Yeah, well, this rumor's been around now for about the last month. There's been talk about Geoff Cameron going to Europe, and Stoke seem to be the most vociferous suitors at this point. It's interesting to see the Houston ownership coming out and saying, we're not going to get in the way. Obviously, they stand to make some money if there's a transfer fee that is exchanged in this.
All right, a couple other national teamers in the news. Clint Dempsey, of course, now being linked with Liverpool. You think this is going to happen?
I don't know. It's one of those things that we've heard again and off and on for the last 6 months, in fact, right now. So whether it happens, I don't know. I think that Dempsey would actually be a very good fit for this Liverpool team. Although he's a little bit similar to Andy Carroll, and then he's that big presence up top. I think he could be a guy that could float in many positions for this club.
All right, and Brad Guzan is a player who we thought may have been on the move. Turns out he has re-signed with Aston Villa for a few years. He will now compete for a starting job there. And no updates yet on Carlos Bocanegra. Could he be coming to MLS? We will find out. DC United with a press conference called for later this afternoon. A big announcement, Greg. What should we expect?
Well, 2 p.m. Eastern Time. It's actually going to be streamed on MLSsoccer.com and DCUnited.com. And basically the news is what they said on Monday. New investors in DC United. It's been rumored for about a month or month and a half that new investors were coming in, and today we will find out who they are. Remember,
the story around DC United for a long time is, can they get a stadium built? New ownership coming in only helps their chances there. Want to remind everyone, a couple things coming up on MLSsoccer.com today. You can check out Instant Replay, see all the controversial calls from this past weekend, and of course the power rankings come out every Tuesday. Don't miss out on that. We'll be back on The Daily with plenty more tomorrow.